It's been my experience in my 30 years of education and being a director of special education at one time, and then overseeing a very large, in California they're called SELPAs, which is what San Bernardino was, where we provided every program for over 8,000 children, that what can happen in special education over time, and it's always coming from a good place. Special education educators, as Member Benenda said, have the biggest heart. They love their children. And so what happens over time, because many people who are not special education educators don't completely understand special education, and it gets scary because it's very legalistic. And it is the one place, I learned quickly as the director of special education, that families can really hold us accountable. They can get lawyers, and they can hold us accountable to what the law says. There's no other place in education that does that. It's our moral imperative, right? So it's scary to those who don't know it. As a result, what I have seen happen, and not being here in Worcester, but seeing where we're at now, what I have seen is the special education department becomes its own little siloed entity in a district and tries to manage everything as it relates to the children in special education, because the others will gladly let you do that because they don't completely understand it, and it can be scary, and it's complex. How you get out of that is, one, having a leader that says, no, all means all. When you have a special ed child at your school, that is your child and your responsibility, principal, every teacher, everybody who walks through that door. We provide additional services because that's what the IEP calls for that child to excel. But you've got to have a message that says a child who has an active IEP is part of everything that happens at that school, and then they get more on top of that, right? So that's a big part of it, breaking down the silos. Another part that is huge in special education, and I used to say this a lot when I was leading San Bernardino, is Dr. Murray is not the principal of special education. That's not her job. There's a principal at every school. She oversees programs. She oversees the funding sources. She monitors. She makes sure people have that information. But everybody else has to own all of that, right? And so that we need to build their capacity so that they feel confident to be able to do that. When we take it on in a special education department, just says, we'll take care of everything. We'll do all our hiring. We'll take care of all the assessments. You do everything, and therefore you can't do anything well. Or we are trying to do everything, and so it requires so much staff that when there's other staff that could be picking it up, and they need to learn it as well, right? So it really is this siloing that happens. It's all from a really good place. But we get to this place where we have 20% of our children who are identified. That's way too many children. Federally, we should have 10%. It's gone up a little bit. It's more, I've seen districts now 11 to 12, but 20% is a phenomenal number. That's not okay. We need to fix that, right? And again, that's an example of special ed taking on and saying, I'll fix it, because they want children to succeed, right? So that's what I would say, what I've experienced